Well, we've been going around the world showing you different garden tours, but now I'm back in my own neighborhood. Phil, I'll give you a virtual hug. This is my friend Phil Clayton. He lives just a block from me in an absolutely beautiful home that I have some history with. Because before you moved in, I helped the previous owners a little bit with some of the stuff in their backyard. So it's always fun to revisit a landscape and see how it has evolved and transformed over time. Now, Phil is a great gardener, and he does most of this himself, though he, like me, sometimes relies on some mutual friends of ours, John Fluid at Garden Designs, to help a little bit with some of the structural components and just to bounce ideas off of. But Phil, tell us a little bit about how long you've lived here. And
I've been here 12 years, and the house, I mean, really didn't need the yard itself was beautiful, but after a period of time, you tend to make things your own.
Yeah.
And so I, year after year, I've kind of pulled some things, added some things. As any gardener knows, you try some things work and you keep them, and then you abandon some things. But it's been about 12 years of evolution.
Yeah. And everything that dies just presents a new opportunity.
There it is. So, there's a new space to plant something.
A new space. So Phil's front yard, like mine, really has evolved a little bit over time. So you were telling me earlier that you extended a narrow bed along this east side.
This was pulled out about 3 or 4 feet. Of course, this has grown, the elm has grown, this is a maple. The maple's grown quite a bit over the last few years. So we went ahead and pulled this out because what was in there, what we were trying to plant, was getting pretty choked out.
Yeah.
And then extended this out here.
So this is a brilliant solution. And I don't know, have you ever had trouble growing grass here?
Yes. These are hungry trees.
Yes.
And I, for a long time, struggled with the magnolias, and they just looked spindly and sad. And this is probably the best they've looked in 10 years because I found a guy that told me what I needed to do. We've been really over-fertilizing them a little bit more than I had, and they look much better this year.
Stuart, can you walk towards the magnolias a little bit because it's kind of hard to tell behind this fabulous maple. How old would you estimate this maple is,
oh my gosh.
Phil?
At least, I would say at least 40.
Yeah.
About 40 years old.
But you can see there's a backdrop and a nice living fence between you and your neighbor to the east. And they're beautifully maintained and cared for. And then what is this interesting, I get a real tropical vibe here, Phil. What's this interesting sinewy tree?
This one here, this is actually a plum.
Is it really?
Yeah, and for a long time they kept trying to stake it up so that it would be straight. And every time John or his guys would come out, I would take it away. And so I like the form where it has a bit of a windswept form. I think it's kind of sensual, actually. And so I've kind of been cutting and nipping on this for 10 years, shaping this. But yeah, that's what it is. It's just a little plum.
Well, Phil, you and we share many of the same predilections. We're really into shape and form and trees and potted specimen and limbing things up and exposing the beautiful trunks and the limbs of the trees itself. So that's why.
So how they would present themselves in nature without being too disciplined.
And it tells a story when you say it looks kind of windswept. And you can exaggerate that storyline with judicious pruning.
That's right. Just a couple little snips can change everything.
So tell us here a little bit more about what you have planted in the foreground.
This was added. These of course are tropicals and won't make it. But John, they wanted to do some tropical things this year, and to be honest with you, I'm not even sure what they are, but I think they're beautiful. And
I think that's a cordyline.
Is it a cordyline? I don't know. I kind of feel like they should be saved. I would hate to jerk those.
Well, it's one of those things. It's a gardening risk worth taking. Try to save it. You have nothing to lose. And look at this Colocasia.
Yeah,
so tell me
beautiful.
about.
This is variegated. Joy Adams, who does a lot of it, she does the window pots for me as well. Brought these in and just kind of she said, I have a surprise for you. And it was a beautiful surprise in May, and that these all popped up and gorgeous.
And look, Stuart, can you look at how beautifully the light comes through the back side and the color echo there is with the golden foliage behind it. And what is this? This is this a datura?
It's like a minty yellow green. Really
its name
pretty.
Escapes me. And then you've got some caladiums that continue with this large-leaved thematic that you've got going here. And some New Guinea Impatiens. And then another, you also, like me, like lots of golden chartreuse in your landscape. So
I think it's so pretty in the background of the color.
Yeah. And illuminates a kind of a dark space, what could be a dark space. So what's over here?
This is another variegated tropical that was planted this year as well. And then,
an oak
of
leaf
course, you've got your hydrangea
that's
here.
Beautiful. That might be a ginger. And
yes,
then,
I
speaking of ginger, we are very gingerly walking on Phil's lawn because he just recently overseeded in Oklahoma. Fescue really gets stressed out in the summertime from our intense heat and our very dry conditions. And so most of us who try to grow a fescue lawn, if we've got too much shade for Bermuda, we have to overseed.
Right.
In the fall is the best time. And you have done it perfectly. You have top dressed.
Right.
And then put some seed down and then maybe even covered the seed
yard,
itself.
The yard is tough because it's so disparate. I have areas that get lots of 90-degree direct sunlight, and then some areas that get none. So it gets a little patchy later in the year, but like we were saying earlier, we had a pretty good summer, so I didn't have as much fescue die off as I normally do.
And I think Phil is a designer at heart, and I think you would agree that the lawn really is the canvas upon which all of these other things play. So if your lawn doesn't look good, it makes everything look less than its best. So that's really, really important. Now you have edged in some stone here, and it looks like you don't have a creeping grass, so you can just edge pretty easily up against the stone. And I'm somebody that loves a good bit of algae and mold that grows that grows on stone, the patina that provides.
Yeah, the rocks do look really, really pretty and very aged.
And then back here, Stuart, if you would show just down to the street, another kind of living fence of just heavenly bamboo Nandina that you have. I love the way you have really kept it at a certain height.
Yeah, when you top the Nandina like that, it tends to kind of almost waterfall over.
Yes.
And it does make it. They get a little wispy. I've got some in the backyard that are a little wispier than this. These, of course, because they're in the front, I tend to trim on these a little more.
But they're beautiful, and the thing is they give you a sense of privacy, but it doesn't in any way obscure the vista down the street. And I love that privacy, but also with some open air sensibility to it. So this is just really fabulous. Now let's walk back towards the front door, and this bed line really brings you around to the front door, but as do these pavers. So let's come back over here as if we were coming to greet you at your front door. Now this is a very personal question. How do you have an aggregate drive? We live in a historical preservation area, and everything has to go through great scrutiny before we can do anything to really mess too much with the historic integrity of our homes.
You're right, this would never pass. This was done, grandfathered, this was done before I believe it became an historic.
Because I love the look of it, and
so do I. And I'm trying to maintain it. We've had to patch it a little bit this summer, and so I'm going to come back and do it again and stain it properly. But I'm trying to take care of it because I think if I lose it, I'm going to have to go back with regular concrete.
Yeah, and but it so matches the Tudor style of your home. Now let's talk about what you've got here on the west side. This wonderful alley of crepe myrtles, and talk about absolutely beautiful trunks. These are as smooth as glass, Phil.
No, they're beautiful. Crepe myrtles, it's funny the way people treat them in Oklahoma. They come in and they just dehorn them down to 6
Crepe
feet.
murder.
Yes, I just think it's terrible. And so I try, they can grow to be beautiful trees, and for what probably, I think 20 years ago we had a lot of die-off from really, really cold snaps. And we've been fortunate we haven't had that, but I like to take them up. I like to keep the canopy high.
Yeah.
And I do. I think they're beautiful.
And these, I don't know if you know what variety, but they bloom pink.
Mm-hmm.
Stuart, if you can show, there's a hint of pink at the top. And the added perk is they turn a beautiful color in the fall.
They do.
The foliage is absolutely gorgeous in the fall. So they truly are an all-weather, all-season plant in terms of their interest. Really beautiful. And then at the base, and you are such a good steward. I love the fact that you're such a good steward of all of your trees and your landscaping in general. Stuart, if you could look over it, look at how beautifully, if you could pan and see just how beautifully this maple has been pruned. And as an aside, it's also, speaking of all 4 seasons, in the winter time, tell us what you do around Christmas.
Oh, when I'm hanging?
Yeah.
Oh, I get kind of nuts with Christmas lights and wrap this thing. I've wrapped it from trunk to tip before. I haven't done that recently, but it's a beautiful tree to wrap.
It's breathtaking. I mean, really, the entirety of the trunk is very closely wrapped.
Yeah,
and
it's tight, just really pretty.
And may I also say, without a hint of tackiness, it's absolutely beautifully, beautifully done at Christmas time.
Good, thank you.
It illuminates the whole street. So here's another, I think, brilliant kind of solution. As always in our neighborhood, there's activity going on across the street, some stonework. Our old houses are always needing attention, aren't they?
They are. I think when you buy a house that's 70, 80 years old, it's almost a responsibility. You've got to keep it up. And so I always tell people that if you're going to buy a home this old, there's always a project, something to do.
Yeah, it's definitely a historical obligation, but I have to laugh because now our houses are going on about 100 years old.
Yeah, they are. They are. This one, she's about to have a birthday.
Yeah. So let me show you also over here. I'm kind of, I guess, very rapidly moving from one topic to another. But this is a great solution for when you need an easy care, low maintenance ground cover. This variegated Liriope is just a perfect solution. And this is also a wonderful example of the rhythm and repetition of certain design elements across an expanse. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these absolutely gorgeous crepe myrtles, all pruned in the same way and all underplanted in the same way with this variegated blooming Liriope and with stones circumscribing the Liriope. So it is just a brilliant example of how you make it look neat and not messy and have lots of interest, and again, a degree of privacy on the west side of your property. And a great solution too for a very hot exposure.
Yes.
On the west side.
You're right.
Okay, so let's now, I guess we've got to at some point talk about your window boxes.
The window boxes I inherited, they were here, and we've been playing with different types of plants. The window boxes on the west side of the house get significantly less, believe it or not, hot sun than this one here on the on the west side. The east are a little more in shade.
Yeah.
And again, Joy Adams does these for me, and I don't know, I just think they're charming, and I love the way that the ivy hangs down.
And it's got particularly on the facade with the Tudor, it looks very German or very, very European.
It does.
And it's fun to see them change over time. How do you water them?
I do have those hooked up to so when this zone comes on, this line will go ahead and water all of the ones on. Again, I used to stand here with a hose and spray the whole house down, and this has been much easier.
And then you got smart. Now, appointments are everything. So tell me about your light fixtures. Are those gas light fixtures?
Those are gas lamps. When I moved in about 12 years ago, there was one-time gas lines coming here. They had been removed and there was nothing there. And I had just gotten back from New Orleans and saw all the gas lamps there. These are made by a company in New Orleans that actually, if you go out there and you see all the gas lamps here, it's a company called Flambeau. And I ordered those from that New Orleans company and then had the gas lines redone and put those out here.
They are absolutely incredible. They are just one of the most unique features of your home. And I love the layering of places that you have visited and how it informs the style of your home and the intrigue of your home. So I tell you what, let's do this. Let's walk this way. There's so many interesting ways we can go that it's hard to select one. And I'm going to apologize to everybody here because the light is going to get kind of harsh, but nevertheless, hopefully you can still see what's going on. One of my favorites, and probably yours too, is Foxtail Fern.
The ferns are beautiful.
Yeah, the ferns are just beautiful, and they take up lots of real estate, so you don't have to have tons of annual color here for interest. And
easy to grow. Nothing really bothers them.
Easy to grow. We get this question a lot in my yard. Stuart, if you could really focus, and here while I'm down here, I'll do a little weeding for you, Phil. I won't charge you for that. Hey, Kenny. There is some Mondo Grass here that is really, really beautiful. And then you've repeated some of this variegated Liriope.
Right. Yeah, I've just pulled some in and just kind of pulled a little bit into the landscape leading up to the door.
And the other thing that I love about all of this is not only is it beautiful, beautifully done, beautifully designed, but it's also extremely pollinator friendly. So you've got lots of Pentas here. On the opposite side, you have some Angelonia and some Salvia Farinacea, so you have a lot of pollinator action going on.
Lots of bees, lots of hummingbirds.
Yes, yes. And then, oh my gosh, you have a ginkgo.
I have a ginkgo fetish.
You do.
Yeah, bad. I think I added 4 more this summer. I joked with you. I'm starting to look like a hoarder in my garden. I need to stop. But these are just exquisite specimens. I've never seen anything like it.
Is just
the caliper on these.
Yeah, can you show Stuart just how?
These are butterfly ginkgos, and they'll stay rather compact like this in this almost kind of ball-like form. With very little trimming.
And the ruffly nature, the ruffly blue-green leaves.
Just absolutely beautiful.
Now, does this suffer any scorch or anything?
It hasn't, and it like I was worried about it, and this one actually has done the best of the ones that I've put in.
Interesting.
Because it does get right here some really
good
hot,
light,
direct west sun.
And then you've got it kind of juxtaposed against a beautiful, this is very popular in our area, a blue Atlas cedar. You've got a weeping one in front in that bed, but you've got just a very beautiful statuesque one here. And I want to point out something because it's, again, you are such a good steward of your garden, such a good horticulturalist. Look at how high you have it planted because they really want good drainage.
That's
it
right.
almost sits above soil level.
They will get wet feet and die.
And they really need good drainage. But the other thing I love, like this little glimpse, if you can capture it, Stuart, of that flame through the limbs of this Atlas cedar. It's those kinds of little glimpses into your design that I just absolutely adore. Plus, again, this looks very European. It looks very Germanic or something. It does.
I think it looks beautiful with of course, the European design of a Tudor home itself.
Oh, absolutely. And it also, that kind of blue-green, blue-gray also echoes the same kind of color palette, just slightly, that's in the ginkgo. And then these beds kind of round up and lead your eye beautifully to your front door.
And my dogs.
Hey, sweetie. Hello. Stuart, say hello to the little puppy.
Hello.
That's Miss Kitty and Hobbs.
Oh. But you, like me, you have wonderful garden jewelry, or what I think of as house jewelry. So you've got your house number on your mailbox, and it all speaks the same language. It's all that metal wrought iron, along with your wonderful lanterns on either side. And you also have a little bit of a fetish, I've noticed, for jade.
I do. I like jade a lot. I've
And
got jade bonsais, and this wandering jade is beautiful too. I've got a number of that in some pots at my home that I have at the lake as well.
Now I'm marveling at the fact that you have a jade which doesn't need a whole lot of water in here with some impatiens.
Yeah,
that you have really struck.
This was an experiment. It worked actually.
But
we just kind of stuck that in there to see if it would work.
Okay, if you guys, this is worth the price of the ticket. Just to see how unusually you have used a jade to cascade over the side. And you know, when you're planting something like that, you don't even have to plant it upright. You can plant it on its side, and immediately it starts cascading over the front of the pot. And look at this just glorious textural ensemble in here.
The moss is probably my biggest pride and joy.
Oh, of the
of anything that's in this corner.
It's just, it's absolutely gorgeous. And talk again about a perfect example of every texture imaginable. You've got a bold leaf here, the delicacy of the fern, and then the strappiness of the Mondo Grass with the short dark needles of the yew, and it all comes together with the organic mossiness of the stones, and then another ginkgo.
Guess what?
Yes, another ginkgo. So as a tease, I want you all to know that we are, because I know you're going to ask me, so let me answer right now. Yes, we are going to be doing Phil's backyard, but we're gonna save that for a little bit later, so some work can be done in the back. But look at this beautiful gold-tipped ginkgo.
This is unusual too. This is something that John got for me about 5 years ago. This is a dwarf elm. And so over the last 5 years, I've been trimming and shaping and kind of coring out the inside. Everything I get, I look at it and say, I wonder if I could bonsai that. And so I've been shaping this guy too over the last 5 years. And it's really starting to get a little heavier, and you'll start noticing the cork bark effect on the lower part of its trunk.
This is one of my favorite things to do, and I often demonstrate it on YouTube, Phil, is how to limb up and expose the branches of a tree and expose the architecture. So it's one of the reasons I find your garden so appealing. It also gives you places then to underplant. But just imagine what this would look like if it were solid all the way to the ground. It would just be another shrub. But this way there's a play of light, and oh my goodness, the maturity of that trunk. Yeah,
and that'll continue to just kind of climb up and get gnarled, and that cork bark effect will continue to increase.
There's such a complexity to your garden. I mean, it's beautiful as a whole, but individual components that synergistically work with one another are just magnificent. And it's really, it's not only a beautiful design, but it's a wonderful plant collector's garden too.
Well, textures are maybe just as important as color.
Yeah, I'm always beating the drum for texture and form, and it matters so much more to me now than color. I find it eminently more appealing. And then that's a tease to go into the side yard and look at how mysterious, and there's very much a New Orleans look to this too, with the draping. Is that Boston ivy?
It's
probably.
Boston ivy.
Boston ivy, and how it comes down, not unlike what Spanish moss would do. And then so many of us in Crown Heights have these plaques of when our homes were built. And I love that. And as I recall, This wrought iron work was already here when you bought the house, because I think I helped design it.
Yeah, nothing. Oh, really? Oh, that's I didn't know
that goes back a long time, but
wow.
I think I helped design that.
Yeah, nothing's changed there. I think, as a matter of fact, the trees that are back here, all the trees that line this walkway to the backyard, were also here.
Yes,
dogwoods,
there was lots of dogwoods and
Japanese maples. That's right.
At one time, there were lots of azaleas back there. I don't know if they're still there or not. But then look at the stepping stones here, and how he has Mondo Grass planted, and then a wonderful vista from both directions when you look at that magnificent maple. You know, one of the appealing things about our neighborhood is that we have mature trees.
Yes.
And mature large trees in Oklahoma are in and of themselves a rarity, because I've often said that even trees in Oklahoma are considered annuals.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, winters, ice storms butcher them.
Yeah,
heat,
windstorms. So the fact that we have mature trees enhances, I think, the historic qualities to our older homes, and is the perfect accompaniment to it all. And then in the center, and we'll kind of end on this note, you have yet another beautiful columnar.
That's right.
Ginkgo right here, and the shape of that leaves. There's some symbolism to that.
Well, I grew up in Hawaii, and I saw, as growing up there, I saw lots and lots of ginkgos before I even realized what they are or what they were. I think the leaves on them are very beautiful. They look almost like a Japanese or Chinese fan. They're absolutely gorgeous in the fall. They turn a brilliant canary yellow.
Yes, yes.
And what's fun about them too for gardeners is they lose their leaves all at the same time. So within about 5 days, they all drop to the ground. You rake once and you're done.
And you're done.
Whereas this guy, it's
a
all,
gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely. So
yes.
They're beautiful, and I love them. You know, they're considered living fossils. They're one of the oldest trees on the planet. They're impervious to disease and
I'm surprised
insects.
That we don't use them more.
I am too. You know, they line the streets of Manhattan. And so if you go to Manhattan, you see them everywhere. And, you know, if they can survive and thrive there, they can certainly make it in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma, absolutely. And vice versa. If they can make it here, they can...
Well, that's probably true.
They can make it there. It's absolutely beautiful. And I love the fact that you have... I'm huge on signature touches. And definitely the expression of these beautiful ginkgos in your landscape is just a marvelous...
Thank you.
Very individualistic signature touch. I absolutely love it, and I love you, Phil.
Thank you.
For letting us do
at
that.
You.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we will be coming back for part 2 to show you, oh my gosh. Well, you want to give us a little hint?
I've got some ginkgo bonsais back there that I've had for 30, almost 40 years, some of them. I have another thing that I really enjoy is I'm a koi hobbyist, and so I have some beautiful fish that I'd love to show you.
Yeah, and, it's dangerous for me to come here because I'm a topiary aficionado, and I see now all of your bonsai, and I already feel
you want to
swell of interest. Yeah, I can already feel that with my love of pruning things up. And container
well, let's do it.
Plants.
We'll get some.
Okay,
we'll get
will you give me lessons?
Absolutely.
That would be a great video. You guys give a thumbs up if you want Phil to give me videos. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.